Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you my guess as to what Valorant backslash Riot intends to do. So, I have a crackpot theory here that I want to share today because it seems that I should say, are trying to fill niches that they haven't done with Valorant, which is good character design. But I wonder where that leads us. So down here, these three, I've made individual videos, backslash not so individual in the case of Tejo, about what's going on with them in the scheme of game balance and design, right? Um, please think about looking at the Harbor video. I know it's a hard sell, but to reduce it down to this portion here, after giving some more thought, Harbor seems to be an attempt at being the love child. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because we saw what's going on with Viper, but being the product of trying to fulfill both niches that both Omen and Viper dominate, which is why they are the two most picked controllers. That might be changing now with some of the Astra things this patch, but for most of the time, it's Omen and Viper from a pro level. I'm not talking about ranked Clove. That's a different situation. And even to an extent, there's some Clove argument to be made there. But you have a character that has semi universal smokes that can do one ways, and then you have a character that can do walls. You have near sight, you have area control for the ultimate, area control for the ultimate, things of that nature. So, Harbor kind of does what both of them do to a lesser extent and in a different way because it's hard to say that uh, a smoke that can absorb some bullets is worse than a smoke that cannot, right? And it's hard to say that a wall that can be curved is worse than a wall that cannot be curved, I should say. But there's other things at play that makes Harbor feel worse than either of the two. Then we come to Veto, where we have an agent that this is the next part of things, kind of single handedly wrecks an entire role. For the most part, Veto stops initiator shit. While not being hard stall in the traditional sense of, hey, you can't walk here too freely, right? Here's a wall, here's thorns, here's a slow, here's trip, yada yada yada. Well, two trips, yada yada yada. You do have the safety with Veto of I'm going to destroy your drone, your shock dart, your recon dart, and I'm going to use evolution for Hunter's Fury. I'm going to destroy your Trailblazer, your guiding light, and your trailblazer and your cabbages, whatever the fuck they're called right now. I can't think. Uh, Seekers, right? I'm going to destroy that. Same with KO, but KO gets into a weird 50-50 of who pulls the trigger first. Fade, same situation, right? Like it goes on. Veto with the interceptor tackles initiators for the most part. And then what they've done with Tejo now, well, we're here talking about initiators, pretty much now wrecks sentinels across the board. You have a drone that suppresses if you find the sentinel. You have now damage on a piece of shit ability so that you can actually break trips without necessarily caring by investing a more high damaging, more impactful ability, i.e., guided salvos. You can use guided salvos to get people out of corners, which is where sentinels like to be if you're not chamber, right? Things like that. And then Armageddon as well just can completely pop things on the site, wreck shit. Okay? So the other thing that I noticed with Tejo that I admittedly this is like take number two or three, I didn't catch until later is that with the drone change, they're trying to make Tejo kind of this all-purpose situation of an initiator. That now it has a reveal instead of a snapshot. It has a reveal the same way that if you get pinged by a Sova dart or a Fade Eye, there's a little, oh, they're going that way. That's where you shoot. Now, they kind of nuked the radius, so it doesn't fulfill the same thing. But they said, hey, you only have one bit of util for information, a drone. It doesn't recharge anyway. Here's your all encompassing information ability, which is what initiators are either doing. They're either getting information or they're helping you get shit out of things, like getting you onto site by moving other shit out the way. So Tejo has that in spades. And then we lead into kind of the predictions, right? Where if they continue to go down that route of, well, you have a sentinel that wrecks initiators, an initiator that wrecks sentinels, now you need a controller that somehow wrecks duelist, and a duelist that somehow wrecks controllers. But I think, funny enough, it kind of evens out because that's why I have these five over here. Because there's a couple of things that are missing that I think realistically will be coming soon. I would hope. Um, some more than others. First up, I have Brim here just as a stock standard. Here's your controller. But out of the controller class, if you wanted to wreck a duelist while not being a sentinel, how would you do that? Well, I have KO there for a reason. Suppress. We have suppress on two initiators. We have veto that doesn't suppress but still stops abilities. And then we have suppress on a duelist. But we don't have suppress on a controller, right? Let me double check. Yeah. Right? Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a controller that, much in the same way that Clove throws this decay and metal, because they seem to be in love with this type of ability right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the next metal backslash what's the fuck is the slow called again? The nope. This thing. I'm blanking on the name right now. Wouldn't be surprised if the next one of these that comes out is on a controller that has a suppress. Or what could be kind of unique is making it so that your smoke suppresses. Like if an enemy walks through that smoke, they're suppressed, which means you can't pop flash through it. That would also wreck initiators, but we'll get to that. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. I think they have to be careful of that. I think it'd be pretty cool. But they could also. There's a lot of things they could do. It also should probably have a wall because our only options for walls right now are Viper with the one placeable and Harbor where you have to be in the right spot at the right time at the right angle. So probably needs to have a drag and drop wall that we've asked Harbor to have. I hope they put it on the next agent and probably suppress. But then we come to the thing that I have Sage here for, because there's another thing that's missing that probably needs to be in the game to help low ranks. And yes, you do need agents that help low ranks to make people want to continue to play your game. And I feel like Sage encapsulates that a lot because everybody sticks their partner that's just learning the game on Sage and goes, just heal me. We know the pocket Sage, right? But on that note, we're missing heals. Now, I'm not saying that heals are an integral thing, and especially when you're coming to attack shooter, whereas like you're supposed to be able to get like the one shot headshot, keep it cool, calm and collected. But we're missing team heals outside of Sage and Sky. And Sky, for whatever reason, was tacked on the caveat of can't heal herself. Hopefully they change that about Sky to give Sky some more power. If they don't bring back regenerating guiding lights, I don't know. But it still stands to be said that we're missing a controller that can heal other people. Which was weird because when Sky came out and we heard we were getting another healer, right? Because again, when you first come into the game, somebody goes, "All right, I'll play the healer," and there's none, right? There's one. Uh, you go with Sage, and then you go, oh, okay. Then they made Sky, which was weird. It's like, why does an initiator have a heal? Shouldn't that be on a controller? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future we get a controller with a heal. So those are my two callouts on the controller thing because that's where we're missing situations. It doesn't seem like they have a pattern, given how quick Duelist got up to 8, and everybody else has been way behind. But I would hope that the next controller either has a suppress or a heal. And if it has both, that'd be fucking insane. Uh, and that actually might go kind of crazy. But it'd be cool. Then we come to an initiator. And this is of two minds. You need another initiator that feels the same niche of scan, the same way Fade and Sova do. You need another one. That's why they continue to dominate. So, in much the way that they've done Harbor and what I think they are tempted with Teho with the recent change, but not quite. You need a scan that, unless you decide to mega buff KO's knife range, which I think would be a horrible idea, um, you need another scan. You need another scan, something that combines the two most popular initiators, being in Fade or Sova. And that's thing number one. They also need a drone because, as you can see with the case of KO, they gave a scan, doesn't give the reveal. I guess I should say that. It doesn't need to be a scan, it needs to be a reveal. You need a replenishing reveal. And then in the case of Tejo and some others, uh, there's drone. And while people are making and have made solo drone Tejo work to compete with Sova and Fade, you need both a reveal and a drone. Whether that be one that looks everywhere or two that can only see kind of close. Probably something in the realm of Trailblazer where you get like the mid range, only so much sight, right? If you're going to give it this is the same type of reveal as Fade and Sova. But the other thing that's a problem with Initiator and the game in general, because I think that this part isn't addressed enough, but it is indirectly, is flashes. Now, for the longest time, we've talked about, oh, that's a no flash comp. That's insane. But people are getting used to it now, right? But here's the thing: if you look at the flashes that are in the game, why is Yoru popular? Not only can you play the role of initiator because you have, oh, let's just see, the ability to get out duelist. I mean, sorry, sentinel utility, a flash that seems pretty initiatory. Um, movement, yeah, that's duelist. All right, cool. And then information, oh, that seems very initiatory. So why is Yoru pretty good from that aspect? Because they designed an initiator that has a teleport, right? That's pretty solid. So, but let's go back to the Flash for a second and review the flashes that we have in game while we're on Duelist. Let's bring out Phoenix's 2. Controller, we have no controller with a flash. You have a near sight, two of those things. So maybe the controller might also get a flash. That would be kind of wacky. They did it for a Sentinel, so I guess I should throw that in here where controller seems to be up in the air of what you can bring because you can either, and I guess you could argue that a flash can wreck a duelist if we're going with this line of thinking. So let me throw who's the spokesperson for flashes. Let's go with Breach here. And on that note, because there's no controllers, we have Breach. So his flash that needs to be attached to a wall. You have Guiding Light that yes, it can give information, but you have to throw it out and pop it. The only other good flash I would argue is KO's. And you have a Blind, which again isn't a flash, and you have Vice that has Arc Rose that no longer gives information. But again, two of them have to attach to a wall. One of them is short range and has to curve. One of them is, can place it wherever, but it gives probably the second most indication that it's about to happen to you right after fucking Breach. So you can turn a bird as long as they don't drive it into your face. So that's the mix up. But you don't have a good pop flash outside of, well, we'll bring you back down here. Curveball is a good pop flash. I'll give it that much. But if you look at the real flashes that are in the game, yeah, no shit, people are picking Yoru. You don't have a really good flash. Am I supposed to? This flash takes forever to go off, has to travel, has to be attached to a wall? No, that's garbage. This one, fine. gives information, but that's the other thing. It gives information. I don't want to just toss two of them willy nilly because I want to know things about if somebody's even there. And then we have Arc Rose, which can be destroyed and is on a Sentinel. I'm not asking my Sentinel to flash me into sight, usually. So, out of these flashes that remain, the next initiator, if we're going to get kooky with it, I'd say it needs to have a drone, a reveal, and a flash, which would unfortunately make it the best initiator. But I think you have to do something like Old Harbor, where, alright, you get all of that, but that's kind of like all you do. You got wall, 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 ball. I think you need to go something safe if this is where we're going with Initiator. It needs a flash because there needs to be more flashes because there's no. Here's the other thing, right? Nerfing Yoru into Oblivion doesn't necessarily solve anything. Because if you nerf Yoru into Oblivion, how much different is going invisible, having a second life? Flash, flash, we already talked about that. Wall and Molly to get in versus teleport. Yeah, that one's significantly different, but if you're just going to fill a role, you're just going to pick up the Phoenix, which we've seen teams do already. Paper Rex is bringing it back on Haven, right? We've already seen Phoenix on Pearl for the longest time. Uh, so you're just actually Vitality too have used Phoenix on Corrode and I think there's one other map that I'm forgetting with Sayonara was it I believe. But yeah, you need better flashes. So if that means making a sky again, but instead the flash is also a reveal, I don't know. I think that'd be kind of kooky because as people are now playing the game a little bit more seriously, well, with more knowledge, I should say, people are layering flashes with reveals. That way, they actually get the information because you have to turn the flash, or you are blinded, and being blinded and possibly missing the reveal would really fucking suck. So, just being revealed and not being blinded at least gives you some hope. And that's kind of where it is. As you can see, controller is open like a motherfucker for what they can do, but the only really helpful thing is if they were to, in my opinion, make a controller that either has a suppress or a heal. The flash I think would be insane because then they would just be a replacement of Omen probably, and you'd still be picking Viper because there's a wall. Unless you give them a wall, and that's another thing. Maybe you don't give them any orb smoke. Maybe you don't give any orb smokes and just do wall, 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 flash, suppress, something like that. I don't fucking know. And then you can have that conversation of what the controller is because you need more walls in the game. The other walls are on fucking Duelist. You're looking at Phoenix Wall. You're looking at Neon Wall. So you got two walls here, two walls here. Yeah, you need a little bit more coverage for that if you're going to ask me to play line of sight blocking. But that's just my theory on how Valorant is making agents. I wouldn't be surprised on any of these options coming up next. But I know that this option needs to happen. There needs to be more so of a fade competition. And in that grand scheme, and I guess I should address this too. Another thing with Yoru that kind of might even be able to place down here in this argument of, well, we have duelist, sorry, we have Sentinel that stops initiators, initiator that stops sentinels. Maybe if we go the suppress route, controller that stops duelist. Duelist that stops controllers is Yoru because the way that you stop smokes is reveals and drones, and the one that can turn into a drone and has a drone helps you. So Yoru fulfills a couple of things that I think they need to, instead of just destroying the one answer to everything, you need to make more answers. Is how I feel it. Hey, yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.